And welcome back. Big news just announced today because Fannie Mae has just predicted that existing home sales this year will fall to a 13-year low. They're also forecasting for home prices to fall in 2023 and then fall further in 2024. So in today's video, I'm going to share Fannie Mae's housing market predictions through 2024 regarding housing starts, home prices, mortgage rates, and much, much more. So here's our actual press release that was just announced on the 19th of May here. It says a recession remains likely as credit conditions are tightening here. This is based on their monthly housing market forecast that they post on their website here from their Economic and Strategic Research Group, or their ESR group. They say here that existing home sales, of course, an existing house is not a brand new house. It excludes brand new home construction. Existing home sales are forecasted to fall further due to affordability constraints and an extraordinary tight inventory of existing houses for sale. By my own analysis of AltosResearch.com's data, we have approximately 53% fewer existing houses for sale right now compared to the same time frame in 2019. Fannie Mae, of course, touches on this lock-in effect we have regarding current homeowners who are opting not to sell because they have rates far below current rates right now. So this would be actually a really good time to share the latest housing market update regarding mortgage rates, because according to Investopedia.com, as of May 19th, rates have surged to 7.09% for an average 30-year fix for people with exceptional credit. 7.09%. Just mind-blowing. Also, according to the Mortgage News Daily, as of today, again, which is the 19th, rates have surged 8 basis points from yesterday and are now averaging at 6.9%. Also, a 30-year fix for FHA is at 6.55%, and VA is at 6.52%. Look at this, because 1 year ago, the average 30-year fix was 5.36%. Now it's 6.90%. That's an increase of 1.54 percentage points over the last 12 months. Also, when looking at this chart right here at 6.90%, this is the highest rates we've had going back to March 9th this year. So in other words, rates have increased to a 2.5-month high in the US right now. And because of these rising rates, this is one reason why we're seeing a lack of new supply hitting the market, which is this lock-in effect. As such, housing demand has shifted further to new home construction, which is increasing builder confidence for building new single-family houses. So regarding that, I want to touch on that very, very briefly. I touched on this, or actually reviewed this in a separate video, but it's worth mentioning again because they're talking about how people are moving to new home construction. This is increasing builder confidence for building single-family houses. However, in my video, though, I shared how just because builder optimism has increased for 5 consecutive months, this has not caused a surge in new home construction for building single-family houses. In fact, we're seeing builder confidence high, yet construction numbers fairly low compared to 1 year ago as well. So here's a report from the National Association of Home Builders here. It says builder confidence has increased for 5 consecutive months this year. So builder confidence for building new single-family houses has increased every single month this year, whereas last year it decreased every single month. So even though builder confidence has increased, take a look at this, because when looking at their index, which is right here, which is their HMI, their current index of builder confidence, when looking at pre-pandemic levels, are the lowest levels going back to 2014. So in other words, even though builder confidence has increased every single month this year, we're still at the lowest levels going back to 2014 when looking at pre-pandemic levels. On top of that, again, like I mentioned, we're not seeing a surge of new home construction as well, because based on the latest trends we have from the US Census Bureau, just announced a few days ago, for the month of April, we only saw an increase of 1.6% compared to March. So single-family housing starts only increased by 1.6% compared to 1 month ago. Also down by 28.1% compared to April of 2022. Also, we're seeing big decreases in the Midwest, the South, and the West as well regarding housing starts. The Midwest fell by 42.6% year over year and fell by 20.5% month over month. The South fell by 27.6% compared to April 2022. The West fell by 29.2% from 1 year ago. In contrast, out of these four major regions, only the Northeast saw a gain on a year-over-year basis, a gain of 15.1%. Going back to Fannie Mae's real estate market predictions here, it says on the multifamily side, this group continues to expect a significant slowdown in starts later this year, resulting from tightening credit conditions, slower rent growth, and higher vacancy rates. One thing I do want to add to that list is that multifamily housing construction is near an all-time record high. So it doesn't make sense for builders to build multifamily properties given these headwinds that they're facing right now, and also due to the fact we're going to see a glut of new home construction, new apartment buildings in which they're going to be renting out. So we're going to see inventory levels increase as well, which will likely cause rent growth to slow further as well. In other news, Fannie Mae is predicting a modest recession to begin in the second half of this year. Fannie Mae also touches on how closed home sales for existing houses, as well as contracts being signed for existing houses as well, has been falling. So they say here existing home sales pulled back in March by 2.4%. That was a report from the National Association of Realtors about 1 month ago. But based on my video I made a few days ago, also from the National Association of Realtors for April, home sales for existing houses slid again in April, falling by 3.4%. So in March, they fell by 2.4% compared to February, and they fell further in April, down by 3.4%. Also, according to my own analysis of the National Association of Realtors data, April's sales pace was the lowest pre-COVID level going back to July of 2011. So based on the seasonally adjusted analyzed basis of home sales for existing houses this April, that pace was the lowest pace going back to July of 2011. In addition, they also mentioned that pending home sales also fell as well, decreased by 5.2% in March. And by the way, I'll have April's numbers in about a week once the Realtors Association announces that as well. And because contracts being signed has decreased by 5.2% in March, that's pointing to further slowdown in home sales in April and May. Fannie Mae is also saying here that ongoing affordability constraints, a lack of inventory for sale of existing houses, and the ongoing persistence of this lock-in effect will likely keep home sales subdued for the remainder of the year. They also say the ongoing lack of existing houses for sale is continuing to bolster the demand for new houses. So new home sales jumped 9.6% in March and have generally trended upward since the fall of 2022. So here's a summary of Fannie Mae's housing market predictions through 2024. I want to touch on home sales first for existing houses though, because look at this. This is absolutely insane. For 2023, they're calling for 4.217 million, 4,217,000 for the entire year this year. This is a decrease of 16.1% compared to 2022. However, though, based on my own analysis and research, at 4,217,000, the last time existing home sales were that low was a year of 2010. Back in 2010, there's 4.1 million existing home sales. Therefore, if we actually have only 4.2 million home sales this year, that would be a 13-year low. And again, that would be a decrease of 16.1% compared to 2022. Regarding new home construction, though, entirely different story, though, because they're calling for a decrease of 0.2% compared to 2022 versus a 16.1% decrease for existing houses. But quite the opposite, though, in 2024, which is right here. 2024, new home construction or sales of single-family new home construction to decrease by 1.8%, whereas existing houses, they're calling for that to increase by 3.9% in 2024. Regarding home prices, this is also pretty remarkable as well. This is based on Fannie Mae's HPI, or their home price index. So for 2022, their HPI increased by 8.7%. This year, they're calling for their index to decrease by 1.2% and then decrease further by 2.2% in 2024. In fact, look at their quarterly forecast though, because in Q2 this year, that's actually the first quarterly decrease in quite some time, a decrease of 0.1%. Then it's going to fall through 2024. This is pretty wild when comparing to 2022. So for example, Q1 2023, an increase of 4.7%. That's the actual increase compared to the first quarter 2022, where we saw a gain of 19.6%. Look at Q3 though. Q3 this year, a decrease of 0.8%, whereas in 2022, we saw an increase of 12.9%. Something I found to be very interesting though is for Q4 this year, they're calling for their HPI, or their home price index, to decrease by 1.2% compared to Q4 of 2022. That's quite remarkable because in the second half of 2022, of course, we had a huge pullback in demand and, of course, a huge pullback in home prices due to rates surging from 3.3% in January 2022, and they peaked at around 7.4% by the time we hit the end of October 2022. Whereas this year, we're still at elevated levels or high levels of rates, but not skyrocketing conditions like we saw back in 2022. And also last year, inventory levels were skyrocketing as well, whereas this year, inventory is relatively flat. So it's gonna be interesting to see what happens later this year, especially compared to last year. Okay, let's change gears slightly here and talk about average rates though. So for Q1 this year, the average rate was 6.4%. Their forecast is also for a 6.4% rate for the entire quarter of Q2. Their forecast, though, for the year, though, overall, is that rates to be at 6.3% on average for the entire year. But then in 2024, they're calling for the average 30-year fixed to decrease to 5.6%. And that's going from 5.8% in Q1 down to 5.4% by the time we hit Q4. And with that said, please comment below with your biggest takeaways from today's video. Also, if you guys want a real estate agent referral, check out that link below, which is homeandmoney.com/Jason to get started today. Hope you guys have an awesome day. I appreciate you, and we'll see you on the next video.